The Forgotten Temple, the shrine completion location in Breath of the Wild, and in Tears of the Kingdom, it has gained a massive upgrade. Yes, we didn't cover it when the Guardians were there, but this altered place with impulse guidance now feels like deep traditional Zelda. Hyrule's most imposing construction. But as we are at its latest point in time, let's recall back to the very beginning of the statue that fell during the upheaval. Goddess Hylia's miracle ascent of the first Sky Islands with a statue, her sword inside, and even the Triforce beneath. Then, her first hero brought the island back to the surface and crushed the imprisoned demise with it. Though what happened to it afterwards? It was hidden, and later on forgotten, though not in its current location, if this is the same statue at all. Since I believe that it might have moved after the Zonai from the sky first descended and even left the surface. They, in a remote area from Faron and the Great Plateau, built their own structure for safekeeping of the Secret Stones, a location visited by key leading Zonai for countless generations, as they inherited the power-amplifying stones from their ancestors. This location served as the storage for the Secret Stones of the Zonai until the final surface generation of the race, when possibly Minoru first, or on the same day as Rauru, received the Secret Stone and transformed them into what was closest to their heart. In the case of Minoru, Purple Spirit, and in the case of Rauru, Bright Light. Since then, the doors remained closed until Rauru met Sonia. Using his hand after receiving acceptance from his sister, he opened the door to the 5 remaining stones for what he assumed was one final time, to grant his eternal love the greatest wedding gift, a secret stone which Sonia turned into a time stone, marking the beginning of their greatest mission, the Kingdom of Hyrule, and the construction of Shrines of Light, one of which is found in the Forgotten Temple. The King of Light and first monarch of the Hylians shut the door, thinking that his children would inherit 2 of, if not all 3 stones now held by individuals outside the holiest of the holy to the zone. Nevertheless, fate wanted it different, as no one would inherit his stone until 100 plus 7 or 8 years after the kingdom's fall to a great calamity. Perhaps it was Hylia's plan all along to get Princess Zelda on a closed time loop, which started by inheriting Rauru's stone in the moment of the Demon King's reawakening. Though what pushed everything in this direction was Ganondorf's lust and eventually successful assassination of Queen Sonia and theft of her stone, transforming the Gerudo King into the Demon King and forcing Zelda and Rauru to evacuate to the holiest of holy to the zone. Here Rauru gathered his sister along with the leaders of the Goron, Zora and Rito tribes, plus the first female leader of the Gerudo as Ganondorf betrayed his own tribe. Faced by this situation, Rauru saw only one solution. He opened the door and granted the gathered leaders the 4 remaining stones, the pledge of the sages, before Rauru could finally bury, or at least visit the grave of his queen the night prior to the ultimate confrontation in the presence of Princess Zelda. It was at this moment that his Hylian royal guard and soldiers first gained access and became aware of where the stones used to be hidden. A turning point as this key site passed from Zonai to Hylian hands. Quite metaphorical, with Queen Sonia, a Hylian's grave, placed next to the storing dock of the Zonai stones. The same went for the kingdom after King Rauru ended up sealed with Ganondorf in the aftermath of the Imprisoning War. Even so, preservation of the temple became key as soon enough the Hylians learned that their only hope in the distant future was Link, an order that might have been issued by Princess Zelda and Minoru, or perhaps was an act regular Hylians committed to, mainly after Zelda's sacrifice and draconification and the tears she dropped, visions that the Hylians witnessed and etched geoglyphs around. Knowing that Zelda pointed to Link in the future, the ancient Hylians acted. While constructing Hyrule Castle above the ceiling point, they repurposed the Zonai-built chamber next to the former holding dock of the Secret Stones to guide the future hero. There in the depression, still with Zonai pillars and text, they engraved the location and order of the geoglyphs, or scenes from Zelda's time in the past, depicted from left to right. All on a map of Hyrule where Mount Hebra had no hole and the dueling peaks were a united mountain separating central Hyrule from Necluda. This map is from a land that later on saw significant changes, but was made for the hero told of in the visions of the princess and the last words of the king the night before his sacrifice. All of this was for Link, how to preserve this clue, hide it and the grave of Queen Sonia behind one object future generations wouldn't dare to move, the statue of Goddess Hylia. Which begs the question, where was the goddess statue during King Rauru's reign? It depends on whether Skyward Sword is even canon or just a legend in the current Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom Again storyline. Though with the presence of Fi in the Master Sword, and the historic descent of the statue that Fi witnessed herself did indeed happen thanks to the Triforce. But there is more. The Bargainer statues collecting the pose of the depths. All of these great statues are located right underneath each of the main goddess statues of the surface and one in the sky, but which used to be on the surface. And that includes the Mother statue. At the same time, it is undeniable that the goddess statue covers the entrance to the clue of the tears dropped by the Light Dragon, and that this statue simply wasn't there when Rauru opened that door with his hand and distributed the final stones. Personally, I see three options here. The first is that the statue has been here ever since early on in the timeline, as it was moved from what became the Great Plateau. Though I doubt that it happened during the first king's reign, as we clearly see Rauru open the door to the chamber holding the stones, this game's Chamber of Sages, with no goddess statue in sight in front of him or behind him. Hence we are left with two options. The first of these is that the statue was moved here or even built by the Hylians after the Imprisoning War. While the third and final option is interesting, as it goes back to Breath of the Wild's 10,000 plus years ago battle and tapestry. Here we see one of the branches of the persecuted ancient Sheikah running towards what? The statue of Goddess Hylia, meaning that it existed at this point in time, as Breath of the Wild's shrine completion reward wouldn't make sense otherwise. It seems like the statue was here, and that the ancient Sheikah only placed the final completion reward below it. And the same went for the shrine in the Forgotten Temple. No matter the origin, the statue hid and thus preserved the Zonai remnants of the temple, which was only altered after Rauru's death in one of its chambers to guide Link to the correct order of the Dragon Tears. And Impa's direction towards this place hints that something was up with the ancient Sheikah and the Kakariko Sheikah, as hinted in the ancient tapestry. All leading up to the decisive point where Link would arrive here in the distant future. It does seem likely though that the ancient Sheikah placed their guardians here for a reason, and that this line of defense might be why the temple ended up being a forgotten one, even its later Hylian part, as it became a death zone, keeping Hylians and monsters away. All deliberate, as the ancient Sheikah, who took inspiration and built similar technology to that of the Zonai, must have known what was hidden behind the goddess statue. After all, Impa knows exactly where she is heading and why. Beams that eventually got corrupted during the calamity, but were placed in a way that they couldn't harm the statue, only individuals heading towards it. And fittingly enough, no one would dare to reach it apart from the chosen hero with the spirit of the goddess hero, Link. Specifically in Breath of the Wild to claim his shrine completion reward. A quest to regain his strength after losing it during the Great Calamity, either before confronting Calamity Ganon or Interbellum created by himself and Princess Zelda. A few years where all ancient Sheikah guardians were dismantled with a few exceptions, and that included the ones in the Forgotten Temple, allowing at last for exploration of the site up to the great statue of Hylia. A statue which followed Zelda's and Link's fall when Ganondorf at last returned and caused upheaval. The event that toppled the statue of her grace and exposed the Zonai chambers behind it. In the first one, the former holding room of the Secret Stones and the humble gravestone of Queen Sonia. One surrounded by trees and dahlias growing around it, and the gloom distant past Sky Flower. As if guarding the chamber where the sages made their pledge to the King of Light, Rauru. The new Chamber of Sages 25 years after the first one in Ocarina of Time. So poetic, though here, even outnumbering him 7-1, each wielding a Zonai stone wasn't enough without a sacrifice, and that to just seal him. The final chamber, however, shows that the Demon King, even after being imprisoned, required another sacrifice to force him to give up on his humanoid form and even more to be destroyed. It is also an example of the importance of the Dragon Tears to the young kingdom, which it was about to relocate north to build a new Hyrule castle above the Imprisoning Chamber. A clear theme of succession, as Rauru sacrificed himself mainly for his kingdom, but in extent, Princess Zelda to give her and Link a chance in the distant future. The same is the case for Zelda with the decayed Master Sword. She swallowed her stone and draconified to deliver the Master Sword with fire inside to Link for him to destroy Ganondorf and make everyone's sacrifice matter, including Sonia, which was the unifying force of the sages in the first chamber. This right here is why I love Tears of the Kingdom's Forgotten Temple. It is the deepest world-building location in the game, as it tells a story through its stones and characters that the entirety of the depths fails to convey, as it is a place to reflect on what was lost and what might still be restored. I see the restoration of the fallen goddess statue as a metaphor and a foreshadowing of Tears of the Kingdom's happy ending. If a questline at the Goddess Springs and Dragon Parts can restore the Mother statue, then surely Zelda can also be saved and restored from being the Light Dragon. After all, she deserved better than sacrifice. An outcome that Impa also seeks upon our return to the Forgotten Temple after experiencing all Dragon Tears and the final one at Rist Peninsula. This is not as much a Forgotten Temple as a Temple of Hope, aimed at bringing Link and Hyrule closer to closure, destruction of the Demon King and the Demon Tribe, at least for a very long time. The reward for restoring the statue is literally what any Skyward Sword player knows as the Goddess Sword pull inside the Goddess statue. It is named differently here, but what does this sword symbolize? A new beginning and hope to overcome evil, but which requires trials and growth. This is what Tears of the Kingdom has done. It has altered and made the most dangerous paths more accessible and added a Zonai layer behind the Hylian one, established or at least visible in Breath of the Wild. But what do you think about the Forgotten Temple in Tears of the Kingdom? Was it a Zonai location first that was claimed afterwards by the Goddess statue and the Hylians who expanded and modified it? Sound off in the comment section down below. If you haven't already, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell to help us towards 350,000 subscribers and not miss any upcoming Tears of the Kingdom lore and theory videos. A big thanks as always to you for watching to the end, and to all our patreon.com/CommonRealm patrons, and in particular, role producer Charles Shesh. You rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.